Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It is match day. Manchester United have travelled to Porto to take on Vitor Bruno's FC Porto side in Estadio Dragão right behind me later on. It is a huge game for Erik ten Hag. His second Europa League game of the campaign, failed to get a result against FC 20, who he's had such a history with at Old Trafford. The fans have taken defeat after poor performance, and tonight he has to put that right. He has to start getting results and the players have to turn up for him on the pitch. But do not get me wrong, FC Porto are not going to come here, roll over and go down without a fight. They are coming here to win, and they expect to win. They know that Manchester United are not the Manchester United of old. They will know how vulnerable they are. The crowd will be bang up for it. They will know that them heads could drop at any moment. But this is where the players have to stand up and be counted for. Professional pride. Come here, win, get the job done. You have to get into the top 8 to avoid the playoffs in the Europa League. Surely Manchester United can do that, can't they? I mean, Erik ten Hag, he's got a tough ask on his hands. You would think Manchester United coming to this stadium, it's always going to be a tough game. I don't care what anybody says. Arsenal came here in the Champions League last season and lost 1-0. Galeno scored, I think it was in the 95th, 96th minute. It was a really tough game for Arsenal, and Arsenal are miles ahead of us, and they were miles ahead of us last season. And people say, yeah, they've got a new coach in. The coach was in and around Porto still last season, but he's become the head coach, Vitor Bruno. They've not had the start to the season they would probably hope for, but they've still had a good start. They're doing quite well in the Portuguese league, and people say Manchester United will have to win this game. There's no excuses. Porto lost their first Europa League game to Bodo Glimt. People say, who even are Bodo Glimt? I mean, they're losing to them, and Manchester United can't turn up to Estadio Dragão and beat them. Bodo Glimt, okay, yeah, you would probably be expecting Porto to beat them, but I've been speaking to a few journalists while I've been in Porto, and just, I think within the week as well, and I spoke to a Norwegian journalist, and he said, people might be shocked that Bodo Glimt beat FC Porto, but Bodo Glimt were at home, and they said it's a really tough place to come. A lot of teams struggle going there. It's an artificial pitch that a lot of people find difficult. And I was speaking to one of the Porto journalists as well yesterday in the press conference while we were waiting for Erik ten Hag, and he said Porto and Vitor Bruno made a few changes in that game that they probably shouldn't have made a few mistakes that they shouldn't have made, and it is actually a tough ground to go and play on. And they did only lose 3-2. I'm not getting the excuses in early, but what I am saying is this is a difficult fixture for Manchester United and Erik ten Hag. You can wrap it up however you want. It is a difficult fixture. Porto, they've lost Pepe, he's obviously gone into retirement, but they have some really good players there, some good young players, and their manager as well is well-respected, Vitor Bruno, so it's going to be a tough game, and they will know how vulnerable Manchester United are. What's really important that Manchester United do, the crowd is going to be on their back. They've already told us that they've got certain things planned tonight, the Porto Supporters Club and the Porto Ultras, they've got stuff planned for tonight's game. So the crowd are going to be up for it, they're going to be on the back, they've got to soak up that pressure, they can't let it get to them. They've got to stand up and be counted for. That's what they've got to do. And what I think is going to be really interesting is what team is Erik ten Hag going to select? Who is he going to pick in his starting 11? Because for me, when the team sheets come out, I'm going to be analysing that massively, because Erik ten Hag can talk about saying Ineos and him, they're together, the whole management team, they're together, they chose to stick with each other in the summer and that's the plan. But the reality is, and I think everybody knows it, these next 2 games, Porto tonight, Aston Villa on Sunday, by the way, who played fantastically well against Bayern Munich last night and got an amazing result. Duran, by the way, apparently Manchester United were linked to him 2 years ago when he was a Chicago Fire striker at 18 years old, and we just didn't go for it. I'll say it before I'll say it again. The scouts have never been the problem at Manchester United. It's the people that are handing over the money to allow them to do their jobs that have been the problem. We've scouted some fantastic players. Duran, Caicedo, we've scouted in the past, Camavinga, Erling Haaland. There's so many players that we've scouted and we've not managed to go and get them and get it over the line. The scouts haven't been the problem, but putting that aside, Aston Villa at Villa Park, they are going to be rocking on Sunday after that result against Bayern Munich. That's a task in itself. You have to get the win tonight. A draw is not enough. A draw is not enough. Porto, kings of the dark arts, kings of them. And I've actually been speaking to some Porto fans as well, and people in and around this city, and they are expecting to win. They are expecting to win tonight. They know how poor Manchester United are at the moment. They know we're 13th in the league. They know our recent results. They know the manager's under pressure. I said, you know, what are you expecting? Would you be happy with a draw? What do you think? No, we're coming here to win, and we think we should win. We'll be disappointed if we don't win. That's how far Manchester United have fallen, because okay, Manchester United haven't been that Manchester United side under Sir Alex Ferguson for a very long time, but we've always kept that fear factor. I feel like everybody knows this is a big club coming into town. You know, maybe we will take that draw. We've kept that fear factor over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years. That fear factor has completely dropped off, and it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore, and this team has every right to think they can come here and win today, and they probably will, if Manchester United continue on the form that they've been on and the performances that have been putting in. But this is where Erik ten Hag has to get his team selection right. So get down in the comments, who do you think should start this game? I'm going to go through my starting 11 and what I think Erik ten Hag's will be. So Andre Onana obviously will start in goal. Saw a really interesting stat about Andre Onana, and apparently he's prevented the most goals in the Premier League, and people get on his back, and yeah, some of his shot stopping needs to improve, especially the low shots. But I think he's actually been good this season. He's stood up and been counted for, and he's probably one of the only players in that Spurs game that could hold his head high and probably stopped it from being around 6-0. So Onana goes in goal. I do think we just need to get that consistency from him, but I am starting to have more and more faith in him as each game goes by, and my confidence grows in him. Fullbacks, this is interesting. Does Diogo Dalot start? Had an absolute nightmare against Tottenham, an absolute nightmare. I think if he had any other option, he might think about maybe giving him a game out. And that isn't me just being reactionary. Oh, he's had one bad game, get him out of the team. It's not that. It's just the fact he's literally played nearly every minute, and he probably does need a slight break. That probably is where his form's dropping off. I went as far to say, because I know for a fact Diogo Dalot's mentality is absolutely top draw. He's one of the only Manchester United players that can say he's been consistent for the last 2 seasons and has put in the consistency levels, the effort levels, and the performance levels that is warranted from a Manchester United player. So Diogo Dalot is I love him, do not get me wrong. But I said when he didn't track Brennan Johnson and he just kind of stopped running for that run that he made into the box, which is a massive mistake, I thought, surely that's not like Dalot. Surely he's maybe felt something, maybe a slight injury. And then there was rumours coming out that Dalot might be playing through an injury. So I wasn't far off with that one. So Dalot, will he play? The reason I think he will play is because, like I said before, this is a game where Erik ten Hag has to pick players he can trust, players that will fight for him. We know Dalot's professionalism, we know his mentality, we know what Benny McCarthy said, that if all the other players train the way Bruno Fernandes and Diogo Dalot trained, then Manchester United would get better results and be in a better place. They are examples of what it is to be a Manchester United player. That's why I think Dalot will play. So I think he will stick with Dalot at left back. If I was Ten Hag, though, I'd be really tempted to swap Mazraoui and Dalot. I would start Dalot and Mazraoui. One, because we've got no other options as well, let's be real. Like, what you're going to do, play Lindelof at full back, Martinez at left back? No, you can't do that, so you've got to play him. But I'd be tempted to swap him. Mazraoui's another one who got ripped, to be fair, against Timo Werner. Got ripped. And that's the first time I've seen Mazraoui not have like a 7 out of 10 performance, so hopefully they can both bounce back. But I'd be tempted to swap them round, because Mazraoui, for me, he can play left back. I know he's played right back since he came to Manchester United, but he can play left back. Dalot's been struggling a little bit at left back. We know how good he's been at right back in the past for Manchester United. Erik ten Hag, you could be tempted to swap him round. Centre-backs, he's going to go with Lisandro Martinez and Matthias de Ligt. That is his centre-back pairing. He has to stick with them, let's be honest. He's got to stick with them, and I think he should stick with them. I think that's the best centre-back pairing we've got available. Both his players that he's managed before, that he can trust. Going into the midfield, this is where it gets tricky. I know the majority of you guys will say drop Bruno Fernandes, and I'm going to be honest, I would like to see Bruno Fernandes be on the bench for maybe a game, just to see how we play without him, because as big of a Bruno fan as I am, he has been terrible since the start of the season. His form has been terrible. He's not performed anywhere near the levels what he's capable of. And he's probably been one of Manchester United's worst players. So I'd be tempted to see how the team performs with him out of the team. However, like I just said, Erik ten Hag has got to play players that will stand up, put in 100% effort levels, will fight for him, and he knows will fight for that club and will not shrink under the badge. Bruno Fernandes is his captain, and we know how good his mentality is. Mentality and form, they're different things. Bruno Fernandes will always give his 100% for Manchester United. He will always give everything on the pitch. We've seen that. We've seen him basically nearly cry in an interview at the end of last season about how much he loves the club and what he'll do for the club. But I won't hide and I won't beat around the bush. His form has been really, really poor. He's been very, very poor. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Do you pick him because he'll fight for you? But at the same time, you risk losing possession a lot because we know how risky he is with these games and how much he's lost possession so far this season. You risk that erratic nature of Bruno Fernandes. What do you do? I think Ten Hag will pick him, and I think I would pick him as well for a game like this. You've got to pick players you can trust, so Bruno Fernandes does go in there, and I think it will be, I won't be surprised if it's Ugarte and Casemiro, just to make things a little bit more defensive away from home. Mainoo, we know he suffered with a knock, but he's available and he's trained and he's travelled. Do you risk starting him from the start, considering he has just picked up a knock? You don't want to risk injury further. And also, I think Kobbie Mainoo is absolutely fantastic, but he's another one who can't play every single minute, and I think there's way too much pressure being put on his shoulders. Way too much pressure being put on his shoulders. Ugarte and Casemiro, tactically, it shores things up a little bit more. It's a bit more defensively sound. You're playing away from home. I think it makes more sense. So I think he'll go with Casemiro, Ugarte, Bruno Fernandes ahead of them. And then his front three, Erik ten Hag gave us a little bit of a clue, because I asked Erik ten Hag last night, I said, Eric, Benny McCarthy said, tactically, you're a master, you're fantastic. But is there a communication problem with the players? Are they delivering the tactics the way you would want them to? Because I'm assuming they're not, because we're not getting the performances and we're not getting the results. He did avoid answering the question. He didn't really answer it. But what he did say is, he said he wouldn't be worried if we weren't creating chances. We've got one of the highest XGs in the league. We need to finish our chances, and a big reason for that is because we've not had our top goal scorer, Rasmus Højlund, available to start games. Well, Rasmus Højlund's available to start games now. Rasmus Højlund has been off the bench, the last few games. He's been back for a couple of weeks. He can start tonight. I think Erik ten Hag will start Rasmus Højlund up front. That's what I think. Will he? Should he? Get in the comments down below. I think he will. And to be honest, I think Højlund deserves a start. Joshua Zirkzee, as much as I've liked him so far, he had his worst performance in the United shirt against Spurs. Was proper poor in that game. I think there's loads more to come from Zirkzee, by the way, but I think this is a game for Rasmus Højlund. Away from home, Rasmus Højlund should start up front. And then the wings will be very interesting. He has to start Ahmad. I don't care what anybody says, he has to start Ahmad. Two of his biggest games of the season, Spurs at home, Liverpool at home. He's dropped him. We've got beat 3-0, and we've not been able to hold the ball in the final third. Ricky speaks about it. You look at it, marginal gains. Ahmad, he gets the ball, it sticks to him, he finds a red shirt. It's simple stuff, but Marcus Rashford and Garnacho, they've both got their own strengths, but they're both, getting behind, run-it players. Ahmad's a different sort of winger. You need that balance. Ahmad has to start. He's been one of our best players of the season. He has to start, and every time Erik ten Hag tries to drop him, it doesn't work out for him. Ahmad has to start on the right, and that puts a massive, massive question to Erik ten Hag. Do you go with Marcus Rashford, with 300 grand a week, the star boy of the team, did pick up a little bit of good form, but still has been receiving a bit of criticism. By the way, I do think Rashford has been working a lot harder this season, and he's shown more than he did last season. I just don't think performances levels have been as good as we need them to be for somebody who is of that seniority in the squad, is on that amount of money and is so relied upon. Ten Hag also has been playing him as a bit of a touchline winger, which limits his goal scoring opportunities, but still, you have to pick between Marcus Rashford or Alejandro Garnacho. Which one do you go with? I know for a fact Alejandro Garnacho will give absolutely everything. I've seen it against Spurs. Garnacho was probably one of the other players that could come off with his head held high. He gave absolutely everything. Who does he go with? That's going to be really interesting to see. Get in the comments down below who you would go with. I think if I had to right now, I'd probably go with Garnacho. But Rashford in European games, he had a good game against 20. Will he fight for you? I think he will. But Erik ten Hag has to make that decision. I think I'd go with Garnacho, Ahmad and Højlund. Get in the comments down below what you would go with. But it's going to be a very, 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 very interesting game. Erik ten Hag, his job's on the line. Can he pull a result out the bag? Will the players fight for him? I hope they do. My score prediction, I'm going to go with a 1-1. I really, really, really hope that we can get a win, but I'm going to go with a 1-1. Get in the comments down below what you think it's going to be. Would a draw be enough? Do you think Man United will get a win? Let me know all your thoughts. Come on United, and we will see you for post-match where hopefully I'm talking about a Manchester United win.